All right, everyone, welcome to Venture Camp. We are live for week 3 presentations. Now, this is the very last week before our finalists go on to pitch to our very own Shasta Angels next week in the finals, where they will be competing for that $2,500 grand prize. So everything up until this point has been practice and really getting ready to pitch for our local Angels group. So without further ado, this week we are focused on go-to-market strategy. So all week, our finalists have been working on their competitive analysis, their SWOT analysis, all of the analysis is to see where they stand in the marketplace, and have been using all that information to get together a go-to-market plan. So we will go ahead and get started, and let's see. I see that Haley hopped on, so we're going to go in the same order as we have the last few weeks, starting with Haley Ajamian with Tail End.
I have to unmute myself or it doesn't work, huh? All right, good afternoon. My name is Haley and I am the creator of Tail End, handcrafted, innovative statement furniture for pet people who refuse to compromise style or function. Okay, let me see if I can share this. There we go. This week, we took a look at our competitors. While I found an endless supply of both pet products and furniture stores, there were a few that combined the two. I found a few furniture companies that were selling dog crates and even Etsy accounts that were making dog end tables, but they were both only offering a single design. And then I found this Dog Crate One on Etsy. Now she's just making dog crate end tables, and again, just has one design, and then you can change the size or the color variations. So that's what I based most of my SWOT analysis on, because I want to do something very similar where I start with one design. Yeah, cool. My company's strengths are that we are handmade in the US, multifunctioning within a booming pet product and furniture market, and that there's no end table dog crate or really even a pet furniture company in Shasta County that I have found. The company's weaknesses are that we're not 100% brand new idea. There are a lot of cheaply made products and versions of this out there, and they're priced under mine. And lastly, I really want to keep my startup cost low. So I want to use organic marketing methods like word of mouth, which essentially gives someone time to start a business and become my competition. Opportunities within the niche are firstly customization options within a singular design. The color, the size, and even the function are the client's choice. So do you want a crate that has a gate, or do you want more like a napping area that has access to come and go? Also, as more people live tiny or go mobile, furniture crates might actually become way more popular. And lastly, I do want to offer a place for people to donate unused materials or like wasted materials, which is going to help out local builders, myself. It's going to help keep costs down, and it helps the planet. Threats, though, are fairly out of my control. Imported foreign products are made and sold at a lower cost, which makes my base price look higher. And secondly, if people are ravaged by COVID-19, the economy is going to tank, and people will need to worry about food instead of furniture. And then lastly, there's actually a few limitations when you're building for an animal. Some high-end woods, they are irritating to the skin or can actually make your dog sick if he eats them. So there needs to be care and knowledge of materials with every build. But with a clear mission to enrich the relationship between pets and their families, I thought about what my barriers of entry would be. Essentially, till I've built about 30 of these things, my turnaround time is going to be a factor in my profit margin. But as I get better or faster or build in bulk, the margin will grow. Next is my marketing plan. Essentially, using a slow growth marketing plan is going to grow slower than, say, a paid marketing plan. And then lastly, I'm a mom and a wife and a full-time employee. And so I actually have to stop what I'm doing and get kids to and from school. And so time commitment is another factor in my profit margin. There's actually a lot of low to no cost marketing options out there for new businesses. So this includes things like word of mouth and social media, but also like makers markets, and then local organizations such as like your Chamber of Commerce or SBA. And luckily my business idea, it doesn't require a lot of capital to start. I have my own workshop and tools, which puts my startup at about $400 for everything, with pretty much hardware and lumber being my reoccurring expenses. And as a direct distributor, my pricing method would be cost plus. In an earlier slide, I showed the smaller end tables running about $400 with the larger ones running about $2,100. So I feel like $500 is a pretty good base price, both competitive, but still covers my cost to build. And as I expand, my price point can expand. So for instance, this little guy here, if you wanted to add all that hardware on there, you would have to pay the extra for the hardware, which would be about $150 on top of the base price if that were a smaller crate. That's about me this week, so thank you.
That is time as well. All right, thank you so much, Haley. So we're gonna go ahead and open up the floor to questions. So this is gonna work just like last week. If you are on the Zoom, if you could click the participants panel, there should under that panel be an option to raise your hand and we will call on you. If you're watching from Facebook Live, then you can ask questions as well. We are monitoring that Facebook Live chat. We have a question from Ryan.
Hey, great job. Two questions, actually. One is, did you happen to see anything in the competition? Was there one that stuck out as it's been able to have significant volume? Just trying to understand the opportunity, if there's volume, if this is a volume business. And then what makes you different from the competition?
So actually, when I was looking at turnaround times, most people were giving themselves about 8 weeks for turnaround. So it wasn't looking like people were doing this in like mass. It looked like a lot of people who were, it was like a side project for them. It wasn't their main focus. Now, when I was finding things that were coming and they were just the item over and over and over, it was through like say Amazon. And they weren't not made in America. They were made with a lot of like plastic materials, things that are lighter to ship. And so I'm not sure how those are being built. But yeah, when it comes to like hand making everything from the beginning, it is a little bit slower of a process unless you start making them in bulk where you make 5, 6 at a time, then it's a little bit more cost effective. I think what makes me a little bit different is that I had notes on that. You're putting me on the spot now. I like the idea of being able to get my community involved. This kind of has multiple phases. And so the beginning phase is pretty much by myself, but immediately as soon as I can, I want to bring other people in. And it's pretty much around materials throughout the community, products created through the community once there's an actual brick and mortar. And so it's more phase 2 and 3 that are different than anyone has really seen before. But the product itself is a somewhat new idea, furniture that like incorporates, it's not so much pet furniture, it's not so much people furniture, it's to incorporate the two. And I really just haven't seen much of that. I've just seen furniture companies that have maybe one crate idea. And I want to have lots. I just have to start with one.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your question, Ryan. We have a question from Dan Morrow now.
Hi, Haley. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. You know, just reacting to both the business idea and the pitch, with the cost of a house now, what is it, $300,000, $400,000 for just, your basic tract home. It doesn't surprise me that someone would be willing to spend some money on an animal house that would look good in that kind of environment. So well done. I think you've got an idea there. So I was just, I'm struggling with the cost of these things, your price point. If I go down to Home Depot and I buy the cheapest kitchen cabinet I can find that'll hold a sink, and I'm going to spend $300. And that's made with cheap lumber with a robot.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, when you did your costs, did you include your labor and the cost of, the electricity to run the saws and storage and shipping? And I mean, I'm worried that your costs are so low that you're going to kill yourself and starve to death if you actually get 1,000 orders.
Yeah. So you're right. Lumber is pretty expensive. And that is why I want the option to have both. I can go buy brand new lumber, or I can upcycle lumber that was never used off of a job site. Because yeah, pine, even just pine is a little bit pricey. But yeah, I looked into that, and I have not figured out electricity. That is the one thing. And I did not factor in necessarily business insurance. Those are the two things I haven't really looked at. I'm not exactly sure how to gauge how much that's going to take just yet. But yeah, the rest of it, if I buy, say, 2x4s or, a larger piece of lumber, I can rip them into smaller pieces and essentially create whatever size or width that I need. So my plan was to buy a little bit more bulky material and then cut it down to size, which is where it helps me with my cost a bit. Don't have to buy exactly the size or shape that I need. I can make it.
So, Haley, I'm going to cut away and we'll let others ask questions, but just, from my perspective, I would love to see you spend a little bit more on marketing, find a niche market, and charge $1,500 for that $500 deal so that you can buy a new house and drive a big fancy car and be able to hire some people with grace and panache and take a vacation. There's supply demand, right? And I think for this kind of a project, go big, go expensive, go wonderful, go after the people who love their pets so much they'd spend $10,000 for a groovy house for them. Go find those folks and really make some money at the front end of this so that you can ramp healthily, please.
Sweet. Yeah, I like that, because I actually looked at dog houses, and going from an end table to a dog house, completely different world. I was finding dog houses at $50,000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you only have to make one of those a year and you're
Yeah.
okay working out of your garage. But you can imagine if they were charging $1,000 for that, right? They'd have to build 50 of them, do 50 times the work, probably 100 times the work to make that one profit they make on that one sale. So I really would love to see you go boutique, justify a super high price, and focus on just get establishing your market before you go after the low end.
Cool.
All right, and that's all the time we have for questions for Haley. Thank you so much, Haley, and thank you, Ryan and Dan, for your questions. Next up, we have Robert Francis with Drew's Place.
All right. All right. So welcome back to Drew's Place. It was a little difficult finding competitive analysis in terms of details about my competitors, but what I was able to find, or what we have is we have private practice therapists, we have therapy groups like treatment centers, and the Veteran Affairs Department also would be a direct competitor. Indirect competitors that we were able to identify were like youth centers, trying to help teens or help kids, after school programs, sports like football, baseball, softball, all those things, trying to channel, kids' energy into something productive. The Veteran Affairs also, and places like the Shasta County Veterans Services, who are trying to link vets up with jobs and so on and so forth. So we found some things we liked and some things we didn't like about the services that are being offered right now. Some are offering individual trauma therapy. Some are offering group therapy for kids. Some places are warm and welcoming. Some places are polite on the phone. And a small number of individuals endorse saying that they do have experience working with trauma. But what they are lacking, or what we feel we are going to be able to offer, is they don't offer individual trauma-specific therapy. They offer a lot of services that basically are symptoms of trauma. So anxiety, depression, anger, but they're not addressing the root issue, which is the trauma. 0 places are offering group and individual therapy services. So, trauma therapy services. There's not one place that's a trauma therapy center. Most of the places we talk to don't have experience working with veterans. A lot of the places didn't answer their phone, and when we left voicemails, didn't return our calls. A few places are look like hospital settings, which our veterans during our customer validation said it was very standoffish to them. Limited training in the current therapeutic techniques, and a lot of therapists are resistant to new and effective trauma therapy techniques. It's kind of like treating being able to teach an old dog new tricks. They just don't want to learn it. And so some strengths that Drew's Place has is that we are going to be specializing in trauma therapy. We have experience working with veterans. Nobody is offering both IT and group trauma treatment, which is imperative because we're going to be wrapping our trauma clients around fully and supporting them. The community is already expressing that they want this. And what's really awesome is COVID-19 didn't affect therapy services whatsoever, because we were able to do it online. Just like we're doing right now with Zoom, we were able to do our services online. Some weaknesses is we're only going to be offering one type of service, and that's trauma therapy. I don't have any experience running a business. It's going to be hard finding qualified therapists who are going to meet the criteria that I am expecting. And we will need a female therapist to address our victims of abuse that were victims of a male abuser. And so they would want to see a female therapist. And obviously, I'm the only person and I'm a male. Lack of trust in the veteran community, like I mentioned before. And like I said, ultimately, it's just me starting off and providing the service. Some big opportunities is that we can expand our trauma services to other age groups, other demographics. The need is being recognized, expanding into high schools. Enterprise High School has already reached out to me and is wanting to write an article on Drew's Place, put it on their Facebook website. And one agency has already offered office space for free or at a very low cost, and which will be a direct line to helping children and teens. Some threats are government funding. It's unpredictable, so who knows if they decide to cut it. There could be another company opening something similar to Drew's Place. Insurances could change their reimbursement rates, and employees not being as invested in the company as I am. So the go-to-market plan is to use the office space provided to me at a low cost. Office space would be inside a primary referral base for children and adolescents. Offer open house to veterans with support from veterans who are already reaching out saying, we are going to get our guys in there. But some big barriers would be, if I decline the offer to use the free space, I'd have to pay rental fees. The VA may not be willing to make referrals, startup costs, and again, finding qualified employees. So I would like to use online and print platforms, create a website, social media. The Venture Camp, people are already reaching out because they are seeing this on Facebook and it's directly hitting our community. Print brochures, community barbecues to invite veterans in and people to see what this is, word of mouth, and obviously referrals, which are free. So the pricing for individual therapy would be about $120. Group therapy would be about $40.
All right, we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions. If anyone has a question on the chat, go ahead and raise your hand. Or on the Zoom, I'm sorry, raise your hand. And we already have a question from Dan.
Robert, I've been thinking about you all week.
All right.
How about that, huh?
Yeah, I like that.
So, the space you're in is a million miles from anything I have experience in. I'll just say it straight up front. So I've been kind of wrestling with the question of, what could I hear from you that would make me get excited and want to invest in your effort? Okay, so I'm putting on my investor hat. There were two things that I would have loved to see. One is that I would do an investment in your market space if you could show me that what you're doing is way more effective than what other people are doing. So point me to some research that says, riding pigs doesn't help, but riding horses does. Here's the data, right?
Absolutely.
That would really help me. The other one is I think your novelty in survivability will be how you structure your finances to accommodate insurance and government billing. I think what kills most people in this market space is their financial management on that side of it, because it's very unpredictable. Things change every day. It's a really unique kind of front office operation. And I would love to hear something about how you're going to be unique in that area so that you can survive these up and downs where other people won't. So those are my two.
Thank you. Maybe to address the second part of that question is, I've been in the field for a handful of years now, and insurances are mostly only increasing their services for mental health in terms of funding, providing more income to providers, expanding their provider networks. State funding is continuing to be channeled towards mental health recovery. I mean, as you guys know, like California is all about addressing mental health, not putting people in jail. So funding is just continuing to be available for individuals like myself and other therapists to be accepting insurances or to be, government funding paying for therapy services. But thank you, Dan. I appreciate the feedback.
All right, awesome. Do we have anyone else who has a question? And again, we are monitoring that chat on Facebook. So if anyone has a question on Facebook, you can ask there as well. All right, we have a question that just came through the Facebook chat. Will you be able to offer services to patients that are uninsured?
Yeah, I think that came up a couple of weeks ago, and absolutely. So depending on what they're coming for, so if they're a victim of abuse or crime and there is any type of, if there isn't a criminal case associated to it, there is funding through the government that pays for trauma, or not trauma therapy, just therapy in general, for victims of crime, of abuse. So there's free funds there. Also, we accept a cash rate. I ran out of time, but I was getting to the cash rate, what it would look like if you didn't have insurance for individual therapy and group therapy. But absolutely, if they don't have insurance, it's not a must-have. And we would offer sliding scale to individuals who are a little bit more low income but need the service.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that question. That came from Holly Ryder. All right, if there are no more questions, then we will go ahead.
And Holly is a veteran, actually, who's watching this. So veterans are paying attention.
Awesome. All right, we are going to go ahead and move forward. Next up, we have Zach Shea with Boxcar Fermentation.
Looks like you have to unshare your screen. I can't do it. Okay, there we go. Okay, oops, went too far again. So Boxcar Fermentation Project, our competitive analysis is our competition is usually brew pubs or breweries locally. You got the park, and then you have restaurants and bars that sell beer, wine, spirits. So breweries have strength in a core lineup, intentional expansion, especially Fall River, and word of mouth is key there. The park, the rotating food has been a proven concept. Utilizing the outdoor space has a large draw, and that the vibe of a location is really important. For restaurants and bars, it's community support. I mean, you've seen GoFundMe's to build patios. Community support is huge. Variety of drinks and rotating drinks is important. And there's also consistency and then a multiple market focus of food and beverage. So with our SWOT analysis, we think that our strengths are a lack of dependency on just one market, because we'll have the food and the beer to really draw people in. Collaboration and variety. Ideally, every time you come back, the food and the beer will be different. And then it's a unique concept for the area. Great beer, great food, great location. Our weaknesses are a lack of local reputation in comparison to other competitors, a limited financial base compared to major players in the beer industry. And then our business has multiple layers that might be difficult to balance at first. But opportunities are that changes in behavior is shifted from just the core lineup to really limited. That's craft beer. They want new, they want fresh, changing. And then relationship building with local venues and intentionally designed patio for year-round use is going to be a big opportunity there. And our major threats are the existing competition, adjusting what they're doing to go after a market segment, or just somebody coming in and trying to replicate the entire concept. Oops. So go to market, we're gonna start with the 7-barrel system and 1 kitchen pod. That should give us plenty of space to grow with the $2,500 barrel capacity and keep initial costs pretty low. So $200,000 for the brewing system, $100,000 for construction, $65,000 for the kitchen pod. Without counting for variables around construction costs, which I kind of did, but we're optimistic that we can break even in the first year and really even start to show a profit. We hope to open the doors to the tasting room before we finish construction, and we can do that by getting a pilot system and setting up small batches. We can do a contract brew somewhere else and retail it from our tap room, and also bring in beer from existing breweries. And we're hoping to really utilize marketing and education to open doors and generate business, which is going to sell more locally. When you go to restaurants, some of them saying it's pretty hoppy, or we brewed this, and the northern and southern hemisphere hops come together for massive peach and sherbet flavors and pairs amazingly with a food item. That's not something that you see here. Barriers to entry are regulations. There's often a long period of time before you can start selling your beer to the public. And we're looking at $500,000 minimum to open. So a lack of initial funds is almost always the reason a brewery fails in the long run. Marketing, this is what I do. And we're looking at really a no cost tiered marketing plan. Before opening, lots of social media, use beer influencers, collaborations with other breweries, and promote the brand through projects. Like this year, I am a judge for the Craft Beer Marketing Awards. So there's other projects going on. Close to opening, lots more social media, more collaborations with local bars, trying to get special beers for them, and then more community outreach and education. And after opening, a lot of events, more community outreach, and then entering into competitions and festivals, and then really maintaining that influencer program. Pricing strategy, on-premise beer, which is we're hoping to do most of it. We're averaging $6.50. Our cost for that is 34 cents. Keg sales, averaging for a half barrel is 185. Our cost is $42.50. And canned beer, $13 per 4-pack.
And that is time.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Zach. And we will go ahead and open up the floor for questions. We have a question from Dan.
Yes.
Dan, are you still there?
Yeah, sorry about that. Hi, Zach.
Hello.
I've been thinking about you all week too. I'm a manufacturing guy, right? So
Mhm.
generally the way I think about, and the way I see your business is you're going to buy some manufacturing capacity, going to make beer. Doesn't matter. You have some kind of capacity. It's capable of doing X number of units in a week or a day or a month, right?
Right.
And one of the things I wanted to hear from you in this presentation is just a very, very simple statement of X dollars builds this capacity. If I sell 5% of it, I break even. Here's how I'm going to get to 20%. Right? You with me?
Yeah.
That narrative makes you investable.
I went over some of those costs, like 500,000. I broke down the brew house. The 500,000 would be 6 months of ingredients for beer. And
It was just so it gets complicated and my mind explodes because I don't know your market space. Right? So anyway, I really love to see you move forward with this, buddy. The
Thank
world
you.
needs more beer.
I appreciate that.
All right, we have a question from Todd, so bear with us as we do some tech finagling.
Hey, Zach. Yeah, this is Todd here. And I have a question which maybe could be an oversight on my end, which I haven't really noticed. So you're a incubator space for breweries, but you're also going to have your own brand, correct? Like, and I know I keep getting ahead of myself for the financials, which is probably going to be a little bit more for next week. But, if for all that capacity that you're going to have, are you going to have like 50% of it for your brand of beer and your beer, and then another 50% or something like that, or whatever for other people coming in to utilize the space and the equipment?
So the key here is flexibility. To start with, it's going to be all us. As we grow and there's more of a demand, there's more of an awareness. As we build relationships with East Coast brewers and we encourage them to come brew a batch here that we can distribute through California, that will shift. So it's really being flexible on the needs and everything for the market.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so we had a question in the Facebook chat from Erin Marie. It says, when you look at your kitchen to beer costs, where are you investing the most money? Do you have established relationships with hop farms?
So a little bit. Our kitchen is just a rentable space. We need the kitchen to be able to bring in outside beers. There's a lot of benefits to a brewery having a kitchen. We just aren't going to run the kitchen. So all of our costs are beer costs.
Awesome. So we have a question on Zoom from Matt. It says, marketing budget. He saw the go-to-market budget, but didn't see the breakout of what you'll need for the marketing portion.
So I have helped over 50 breweries with social media marketing and their actual marketing budget. Really the only cost that I need to do this is beer to influencers. When we work with local restaurants, that's marketing, and we make money from that. So we our really only expense is time, which I mean is an expense, but it's not a direct monetary cost.
Great, awesome. Thank you so much, Zach, and for your question, Matt. We have time for one more question, and we have one in the Facebook chat. It says, it's from Holly Ryder. It says, the market for non-alcoholic beers is growing considerably. Will you offer that type of product?
Absolutely. I want to see beverages accessible to everyone. There's Germany specifically, everywhere you go has a non-alcoholic beer. There's major trends towards low carbs, low alcohol, and I absolutely think that's something that I'd like to have. I don't want anyone to be turned away and not come because they don't drink. That's missed, and I'd like to not have that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zach, and for everyone who asked questions. Next up, we have John Paul with Collab Edge. John Paul, I see that you're unmuted, but I cannot hear you.
Hello. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, it's John Paul with Collab Edge. We're going to present our go-to-market strategy as well as our pricing initially for the first year specifically. So one quick note is that we realize that there is competition in the market for these communities. However, people are not very happy with this so-called community. My idea is more around accountability and moving forward in small groups. And in nearly every competitor, they slap you into a large chat group or have some sort of automated progress tracking on the specific training that you're pursuing to kind of send you emails or whatnot. So there is competition. However, it's not very personal. And I've got that feedback from multiple people that I spoke to one-on-one. My SWOT analysis, strengths are we're pursuing personal connection and actual results, not necessarily are you buying the course and are you chatting online? We want to make sure you're actually moving forward. Weaknesses, we have to grow a community base. That's going to be our largest challenge, is growing the community. Opportunities, I'm seeing people grow exponentially online through their personal brand on LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. People who are not known at all have upwards of 2,000 to 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. And that's me intentionally seeking them out. Threats are some of the massive YouTube influencers who have 500,000 to 1 million plus subscribers getting wind of this and then taking it over because they already have the community base. Our marketing strategy is to go through personal accounts. So like myself or other people that I get into groups to coach them on how to reach out to people in their specific community and how to get them into a small group and start growing accountability and moving forward in their certifications. We're going to do that through Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Reddit. What is the cost of delivering the services to our customers? It's actually not a lot because it's all online. Our socials through Buddy Boss, which is $24 a month. Lifter LMS is where our training and our courses that people will offer are, that cost us $24 a month. And then the hosting are the next items minus QuickBooks, but a total monthly cost of $134 a month starting out. If we have to upgrade the hosting to support the performance, we're looking at maybe an extra $500 a year. It's not a lot. Our target monthly growth, if this model works, is to start a group, which I've actually already done. And from that group, I want to find or train 2 group leaders to start their own group in the next month. And then have those people find or train 2 people to start their next group in the following month. And if it can scale with 5 people in each group, then we can have 10,240 people on month 12. I understand that's probably not going to happen. So after year 1, my expected monthly revenue is $12,800 a month. I'm expecting to hit around the numbers for month 8 at like maximum. And then affiliate revenue which is people get into the community, they like how we create courses and do accountability, and they want to start doing their own content, I can make $250 a person who I send to the affiliate marketing through affiliate marketing. So a monthly profit after year one would look like $12,281. So is this fake news? I actually went on LinkedIn and threw a LinkedIn post up to see who wanted to join a study group with me, and we filled the study group within 16 hours. So we have our first official MVP in place and study group in progress. I've been able to get the platform working. We took payment. We have the first members of the group actually in the group. They've posted what times are available, and we're moving forward. So revenue made so far, like this is real revenue, $1.98 a month. That's because I dropped the price from $10 to 99 cents to make sure payments were working and everything else. And then I actually made $250 on one person in the first group who wanted to start creating content. I sent them to a course that exists outside of our company, and I get 25% for every person that purchases that course.
Sorry, I'm cutting you all off today. All right, thank you so much, John Paul. Next, we will go ahead and open the floor for questions. For those of you watching in Facebook, just keep in mind you can also ask questions. We are monitoring that chat. And Todd has a question.
Hey, John Paul, good job, man. I've been watching you on LinkedIn, which I'm not on very often, but I've been seeing your activity, and your website is super legit. You're doing a great job. I'm almost forgetting my question because I had I think that was a great pitch. I guess I really just wanted to give more praise than anything else. I totally lost track of what I was going to say. Yeah, you know what? Anyway, good job. That's all I wanted to say. I totally forgot.
All right, Todd has no questions. He just has compliments. We'll open it up to Dan, who I'm sure has a question.
Always have one, huh, John Paul? Been thinking about you all week.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, what website is this? What's the website?
Collab-edge.com.
How come I didn't see it like big and bold in your presentation?
Good point.
Okay, I'm done. You're rocking it. What was it again?
Collab-edge.com.
Okay, I see a dash collab edge. Confusing to me. See ya.
I tried to buy collabedge.com and the jerk wouldn't sell it to me. I even offered $3,000. He won't take it.
Have a look at the alternate endings. There's a bunch of US orgs.
I actually own collabedge.net. I may roll with that. Yeah.
Why not? Nobody cares anymore.
True.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your question. Your advisor, John Paul, just hopped on the call. That's why I was distracted when I was saying thank you. We still have some time for another question, if anyone has anything to ask. All right, well, great job, John Paul. If no one else has a question, then we will go ahead and move on to our next presentation.
Thank you.
Now, I just want to give a short PSA since we're about halfway done. Those of you still watching with us on Facebook Live, we are going to have that audience vote. It's only going to be up for 5 minutes, so make sure you stay until the very end to be able to vote for your favorite founder. And without further ado, we will pass it off to Torben and Brendan with Builders Fund.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Builders Fund. We spent a ton of time in analyzing our competitors and been learning a whole bunch this week. Global funding is really a $1 trillion marketplace, and our heart is to help early stage businesses get funded. Indirect competitor-wise is only just 3% of total funding, and actually our direct competitors, which are purely the equity crowdfunding space, is less than 0%. And so what we did was we focused on those 10 competitors, which you can see we've actually collected a lot more data than this, but we've just put some of that data in the bottom right-hand corner there of those 10 direct competitors, of which the top 3 have a significant market share. What we learned was that direct competitors have first mover advantage. Some have been in the business for more than 3 years and are well capitalized. However, we also see this as an advantage because we get to learn from them, we get to differentiate from them, and also leverage the growth. And you can see it's coming off such a low base. There's a ton of growth to be had. But last week we said like there'd be about 1,500 startups we would aim in the first year. We feel that's optimistic after looking at our competitors, and we've reduced that significantly and feel that that 14 million target would now push out to about 2 years. What we've also learned is that year to date, the market itself, the equity crowdfunding market, has more than doubled, almost to 700 million, which is kind of crazy. And the actual raised ask of typical early stages has gone up by 31%, all the way to 340K. And actually, most of our calculations, we've come off a lower base of about 180K. Also, regulatory-wise, the CF limits are going to be increasing. This is not official yet, but it's looking to be moved from 1 million to 5 million, as well as relaxing the requirements for accredited investors. A reminder again, our primary customer are non-accredited investors. So we're seeing this whole climate for non-accredited investors just continuously increasing. And the graph that we're seeing is really full on. From a pricing strategy perspective, we've learned a ton as well. Most of the pricing we've seen has been super complicated. So our first strategy is to simplify the pricing. But we've also seen that the range of percentage ask is 7 to 12%, and that what we wanted to do was come in at the lower end of that. So what we've done is we increased our 5 to 7%, which allows us to keep it simplified. We also want to keep fees low for investors and potentially even incentivize investors in future. And a benefits approach where our listing fee actually includes our initial consultancy for due diligence. SWOT-wise, our major strength is that we can build trust and auditability right into the system, governance through the blockchain, and the transparency and regulatory abilities are second to none. Weakness-wise, we have to educate our non-accredited investors, and they have to learn a ton. But that's also an opportunity because our non-accreditors get the benefit of the due diligence, the digital contracts, and all the regulatory stuff built in. But it is a new regulatory market and it's immature at this stage. So that's subject to changes and also potentially the scams that come with this kind of marketplace. Brendan?
Hi. Our plan to get our first 100 customers is already baked into the MVP that we outlined last week. We're creating a path for 120 investors to raise a combined $100,000. This will generate $7,000 in revenue for us. To achieve this, we're going to guide and support our 6 venture camp finalists on their path to get 20 individual investors, each contributing 500 or more to their project. Barriers we expect, well, starting from a zero brand exposure is always a challenge. So we're going to put our best foot forward. We're going to create a clean, high-quality website. Accepting money on behalf of others is equally tough. So for this, we're going to leverage technology. Blockchain brings extreme accountability to digital contracts. And with high regulatory costs, our initial research, we saw $30,000 to $50,000, and we're now seeing a path at around $15,000. Lastly, we need founders. So today we contacted all finalists asking if they would be willing to join our MVP. In terms of marketing, rather than spending money on ads, it's important for us to experience and learn from our founders' journey. We'll be by their side, supporting them through each step of the way, from setting up their profiles and milestones to closing deals. We've set aside $1,500 to build a strong brand identity and other well-crafted content. The goal is to perfectly explain to investors how the platform works and how it protects their funds. We'll work with our fellow founders to provide them with everything they need and build the trust in the platform.
All right. Man, each and every one of you guys, I'm cutting off this week. Thank you so much, Torben and Brendan.
Thanks, Megan.
Again to Brendan. Brendan, for those of you who don't know, is all the way in Australia. So it is the middle of the night, and he has been a champ and showed up every week to be with his partner and presenting. So thank you guys. We will go ahead and open up the floor to questions. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, you're welcome to ask a question in the chat. We are monitoring. All right, we have a question from Dan.
That's what I'm going to say there, Torben.
Hey, Dan, good to see you.
Been thinking about you, buddy.
Thanks.
So if I give you $100,000, you'll give me 7% on it?
It depends what perspective you're talking about. So the aim is to raise 100,000 and for the revenue from that to be 7,000, so 7%.
So if I gave you another 100,000, you could go after the same deal and give me 7%?
Correct.
Huh. That was a bold statement, right? That really caught my eye, because then I'm wondering, if you could do that with 100,000, why are you bothering to do all this nasty work? I think people would pour money on you if you could actually deliver 7% return on investment in something. So just to say, when I saw that, it was kind of like a, whoa, big mystery. So you may want to drop that from the presentation, because that was just a giant something from my perspective.
Maybe there's a clarification. It's not the return to investors. Typically, the return to investors on investing in early stage startups, the figure is around about 20 to 21%. But the 7% is the actual price. That's our pricing strategy. So those are the fees that we would charge for founders raising a successful round.
Yeah. So in that probably, there's a very, very important clarification that needs to happen on that.
Yeah.
Because
I appreciate that.
Kind of poisoned the pool for the real rate of return, and you left me thinking, what, I'm going to give you money and you're just going to take it right off the top, and you're not, it was that whole piece of it was very problematic for me when I wear my investor hat.
Yeah. I think we take that on board. Brennan?
Yeah, I think that there's no cost to investors, and that's part of the strategy, is zero fees for investors. That 7% is part of standard capital raising costs. So we look at a founder's perspective. If the founder wants to raise $100,000, 7,000 of that goes to the company that's assisting them, the platform in our case, that's assisting them to raise that money. Now, traditionally, capital raising, if you try and do that, you're going to spend about $20,000 to go and raise some capital, and the capital firm will market it and strategize with you and work with you to raise that fund. In crowdfunding space, as Tobin said, in the pricing strategy, we found that the pricing starts at around 8%. Pricing is 7 to 12%, and in very complicated structures. So we've simplified it by making it 7% across the board. But yeah, that's our revenue. That is our revenue stream. So there's no cost to the investor. That's the transaction cost that goes to the founder.
Yeah, and I got another, thanks, Dan. Got another question from Todd. What are our startup costs? So next week, as you know, we're going to be going into more detail on the finances. But what I would say is that I think Brennan and I both value bootstrapping quite a lot. And so in this initial round of MVP, we're looking for that to fund both the marketing and some of our development costs. And so, but also Brennan and I will need to do a lot of the work. So we have a consultancy that specializes in blockchain technology. So we will be leveraging our own resources and our own expertise to actually get this up and running. So our startup costs will be basically quite competitive, I think, in this space. But it will be slower. Our go-to-market will be more organic. But we feel that that's important because what we want to do is we want to learn from investors and founders, so both sides of the marketplace. We don't want to be one of those people that just goes, okay, you guys love this. We just wield a brick to get it done. We really want to dig deep in this MVP and really understand that and get ourselves ready for, say, the venture conference or some kind of bigger funding round in Q2.
All right, awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dan, for your questions. If there is anyone else who has a question, we have about time for one more question. All right. If not, we will go ahead and move on to our last presenter of the day, Ma Teresa Perino with Eden.
Hello, I'm Teresa Perino, and if you're wondering why it's not called Eden anymore, as I was doing market research, I found out that there's a bakery here in Reading called Eden, so I named it The Garden. So The Garden serves as a cafe and creative hub that focuses on cultivating an artistic atmosphere and gives you the space and tools needed to freely function in your creative gifts. Paint, write, create, and share as you enjoy your freshly brewed coffee. So my competitive analysis. My direct competition would be Theory, Evergreen, Heritage, and Makery. And my indirect competition would be Etsy, which is an online market, and Shasta County Arts Council, which is a nonprofit that supports the arts. So I did their strengths and weaknesses. Theory strengths and Evergreens is they have a strong customer base and they have a beautiful lounging area, but also they don't have a designated quiet area. That's one of their weaknesses. And they don't have late hours and no community events. For Heritage, they have a quiet space for rent, and it can also be rented as a venue, and they do community events and they support artists. But for their weakness, they're only event-based creative activities. So meaning it's not a daily thing, and they don't have late hours as well. And for Makery, they have a beautiful studio space. They do art workshops, they support artists. But again, like Heritage, it's an event-based creative activities, not a daily thing. And it's a venue, so you can't just go there and lounge and hang out whenever you want to. So what makes The Garden different? Our goal is creativity. We're more about atmosphere and less about coffee. At The Garden, you can paint with supplies available for purchase. You can create and lounge in the same space, and also having a conservatory greenhouse with a designated quiet area. So strengths. So Reading has a strong art ethic and artist network. Reading is one of the only 14 official designated California arts and cultural districts. We have expanded hours, also our atmosphere and our culture. We have a quiet area and our consistent programming. What are our weaknesses? It's new, it's upcoming. We have a good amount of competition, and it can have high startup costs. And also, it might be difficult communicating our culture and creative experience for when we begin, such as like feeling free to paint at any time. So what are opportunities? I can start off as a pop-up shop. This will allow me to test the market before finding a permanent location. It's lower entry costs. We can explore the different programs and slowly build our customer base and followers. Also, The Garden will be considered the first of its kind in Reading. What are our threats? The pandemic may have an effect on the total capacity, also the economy. So I compared what having an actual building and a pop-up shops for barriers to entry. So for an actual building will be brand recognition, high startup costs, continuous overhead costs, and customer loyalty. And if it's a pop-up shop, it'll be brand recognition and finding a place that actually allows the garden experience, also customer loyalty. So based on that, I think the better idea is to start off as a pop-up shop when going to market. We can start that off for a year and collaborate with another business to do pop-up shops like 4 times a year to create an experience. That would include artist marketplace, artist-led workshops, open mic, having music, having a coffee cart. That will be our branding, movable, comfortable seating, rotating art exhibit. Again, it will allow us to test out the market, build the customer base, and increase the revenue over time. So my marketing tactics would be the brand development, having a website, business cards, contest for gift cards. Also the idea of a free latte voucher for students. There's about 4,112 students in Simpson University, BCA, and BSSM, which is a good potential amount of customers. Also, the biggest thing is social media, which is free. Handbills on bulletin board, inviting art school to have shows and events at the garden, collaborating with the pop-up locations, no cost publicity, and free listing and publications. So the first year budget would be about $2,806.85 for the marketing. So my pricing strategy, I based it on my competition, keep it the same price for the coffee cart, and also having the workshops, which is similar to my previous presentation, which would be $25 for adults, $20 for children for 2 hours, doing the 25% art commission, plant resale with a 25% markup, and having merchandise and art supplies with a 50% markup. So that is it. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Teresa. We will go ahead and open up the floor for questions. All right, we have a question from Ryan.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. The question that comes to my mind when I hear your story and your idea is how big the market is. And I'm sure that's what you're trying to explore with the test, which I think is a great idea to do kind of a low dollar test on this thing. But do you have any initial thoughts on how big this is? I'm not an artist myself. I know a lot of people like coffee, but in terms of this model with kind of coming and painting and drinking coffee, do you have any idea on what the market is and how big it needs to be in order for you to, break even or be successful?
Well, based on my research, I can't decide the exact statistics of like the artists, but my market base, I'm basing it also on because most of my revenue is on the coffee. So I'm also including the people who are coffee drinkers who like to go to cafe. So based on that, it's like a couple thousand. I can't give the exact number though, which I'll do more research on. So I can figure that out and figure out how I can break even, how many customers I would really need.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan, for your question. And Ryan, she will be going through her break-even analysis next week as well. Next, we have a question from Dan.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi.
I'm thinking about you too. I am really glad to see the pop-up idea. I think that's brilliant. I would go so far as to say maybe when you think about the pop-ups, separate out the branding. Don't do branding when you're doing your pop-ups yet, because really the question is going to be, is it senior citizens? Is it grade school kids? Is it college people? Is it the folks that go to the market, on the farmer's market? What community is going to be your core base? It'll also give you a chance to get a feel for the level of effort. I saw coffee sales. I saw event sales. Are you doing memberships too?
I thought about doing memberships, but I don't want to do memberships because I'm trying to reach out to students, and with memberships, it'll be like a monthly fee. So I want to make it available mostly for students.
Okay, I think there's something in that. Maybe the membership isn't for the people who attend, but the people who present. If there was a decent opportunity for them to do some kind of cost recovery, you may be able to find established artists who would pay to be a piece of what you're doing, which might go a long ways to funding that first couple of K. Just a thought.
Thank you very much. That's a very good idea.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan. We have a question. Well, first I'll go with the idea. We have an idea in the chat from Ryan. It said post-COVID, you could do a pop-up on campus at local colleges near the art building, which is a super great idea. And we have a question from Todd along that same vein. Do you have any ideas for venues in mind for your pop-ups?
I was thinking of maybe doing even like botanical gardens, because I do love plants, maybe doing it outside, testing out the market, having music if they allow me to do a workshop there. So that's one venue that I had in mind.
Awesome. And that is about all, looks like all the questions we have and about all the time we have for questions. So thank you so much, Teresa. I'll just give you a props. That was from your last pitch, you did such a good job of really differentiating how you're different from theory this time, which I knew because I've been here since the beginning. I knew it was different, but you did a really good job of communicating that this time. So for everyone, I'm dropping the link to audience vote in the chat. For everyone on the Zoom call, you have the ability to vote. And then I am dropping it on Facebook as well. So this link is going to be live for 5 minutes starting right now. And whoever wins that audience vote is going to get 25 points towards that final score next Friday. So next Friday is the actual finals. It is the piece that counts. It's the presentation that counts. They will be presenting everything they've been working on for these last 4 weeks, and they will be squeezing it all into 5 minutes. So if you have been here, you know they've been taking 5 minutes on each piece. They have to figure out how to communicate it all, everything they've done in 5 minutes. It's much like Startup Weekend for those of you that have been with us for Startup Weekend. So next week, we will be live on Facebook only. We will only have our judges, which will be the Shasta Angels, on with us on Friday. And we are excited. So keep an eye out. We will be announcing the audience vote winner shortly, but we will let you get on with your day. So thank you guys all, to all of you who presented today and all of you who've stuck with these, our founders' journeys. I know they have some huge fans, and I'm sure it means a lot to them. So we will see you next week.
Thanks, Megan.
Good job, everybody. This is Joe.